Hello, everybody. So just as a quick introduction to this episode, the episode you're about to see was actually recorded December 18th after the regional championship. So the topic of discussion is going to primarily be Pioneer and breaking down that top eight. We had to go on a little bit of a hiatus between the holidays and all of our work schedules. It was just a little bit difficult to keep the pod going consistently, but we're trying to get back on track on doing that, and we still think that the content is good and helpful. So we're going to put it out anyway, granted a month late, but we still think that you'll enjoy it. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the podcast. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and a happy early Christmas. Merry early Christmas. If you're listening to this, welcome to the Southrn Magic podcast. I'm your host, Matt, and joining with me, as always, is Grant. And
hey.
yeah, we're recording this on the week of Christmas.
The week before Christmas.
Yeah.
Happy holidays. Happy early holidays. It's good to be back. Missed last the last session, but it's good to be back on with my good buddy Matt. We've got a lot to cover tonight. Did you know we had a regional championship this weekend, Matt?
I did. I know that. Actually, I don't think Will ended up going to it. I know that Will was talking about going to it.
I think Will was talking about going to it because he found a Groupon, but I don't think anyone from the Southrn Magic even. We're all scrubs. We ran out of luck the first 3 qualifications, and I don't think any of our Southrn Magic people qualified this time. So
yeah, not for Atlanta. I know at least Caleb has a invitation for Denver in a couple of months, but for Atlanta, I don't think anyone did, which is kind of sucky, but at the same time, Eternal.
I don't think I would not. Yeah, everyone went to Eternal Weekend, and I feel like that was the highlight of everyone was going to play Legacy at Eternal Weekend, and also at the same time, you could not pay me money to play that regional championship right after the ban announcement, because as listeners will hear as we get to it, there was a lot of stuff going on, and a lot of matchups I just don't like to play against, and boy howdy, there were a lot of them. So I'm kind of glad in one sense. So non-Magic related news. I've been picking up I know this is a Magic the Gathering podcast, but I started playing Pokemon TCG, and
how dare you take that mess out of here?
I'm
just playing.
It's been fun. It's been fun, but
no, Pokemon's fun.
Competitive level Pokemon is a whole different scene. Holy cow! You think you're good at Pokemon, and then you watch people play competitive.
Actually play Pokemon.
You're like, what? Huh? What's going on here?
I knew how to play Pokemon at one point, but that knowledge has quickly left me. I have this problem with whenever I try to play a competitive or any kind of CCG or anything, I always end up drawing comparisons between this and Magic, and then it always leads me down to oh well, I feel like I would just have a better time playing Magic because I can't remove it from the other one.
You can't move yourself from the game you've been playing for much longer.
Yeah, Lorcana is the only exception where I've actually kind of been able to hold it in its own game in a way, if that makes sense.
Because you're a Disney freak. Disney adult. Disney adult.
I spend
Disney adult.
I want to spend my entire 401k going to and from the Magic Kingdom.
Oh God. All right, last tangent before we start diving in. Um, there were people I knew growing up who like twice or even three times a year they would go to Disneyland in Florida. And I'm like, and now that I'm like an adult and I know
So
like
much money.
the finances behind it, I'm like, and this
It's
was back in
unbelievable.
like this was like pre 2010. This was like I was like, how did you guys find the money for that
Yeah.
three times a year?
Disneyland
Like that's
was go ahead, I'm sorry.
not just like the tickets, the admission, like the admission, food. You have to think about travel, gas. Like this was in the middle of I think we were still in the recession. It's like
Yeah.
how are you doing this? Where's the money coming from?
I have no idea.
Uh,
I
yeah, Disney adults scare me.
I kind of have the same feeling. Like I get tired of being in Atlanta because like it feels like well, not Atlanta specifically, like at Dragon Con, because when I was at Dragon Con, it felt like you can't turn around or walk 5 steps without handing somebody at least $8 for something. And I feel like
Yeah.
that in Disneyland or Disney World is like times 20. So like
Like it's
I'm
like,
good.
oh, I want a bottle of water. It's $5.
They have to wait in line
Uh,
4 hours to get to.
Speaking of, we're launching a new magic vendor called Krausen's Commons, where we're bringing only commons and uncommons to your magic tournaments, and we'll be charging $5 or
For a
more for each
price. For a
common.
price. That
It's
negate
the
you
price
want?
of convenience.
$6.
6, but what? But negates like 50 cents.
Oh, it's
Seven
$10
dollars
now.
now. $10 now. Dang, it's the price of convenience, baby. Uh, no, there was a whole Twitter thing about that. I don't even know if I want to get into that, but that's.
We'll
I think
save.
it's funny we've had the idea of Krause's comments, and now Twitter's in an uproar about.
I'd like to discuss that with the rest of the goons whenever they can jump on
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
So that'll
Well,
be
we can
coming.
maybe bring it on next week, or well, next week's Christmas. We'll probably take a couple of weeks off,
Yeah,
uh,
we might have a
just
little
for
bit
the
of break.
holidays, because we've got Christmas coming up next week, and then the week after that will be my 1 year anniversary married to my wife,
Oh,
6 years together. Um, so I will definitely be not doing anything other than dedicating my entire day to my wife. Um,
how dare
but
you talk about kids' card game with other adults?
all right, so regional championship, DreamHack regional championship in Atlanta happened this weekend, the weekend of the 16th and 17th. I have our top 8 pulled up right here. Congratulations to all the competitors who played, who made top 8, top 16, 32, 64. I think it even paid out to uh, one 138. I think it paid out pretty, or 120,
That sounds about
128.
right.
And I think he just got $100, but still, congratulations to everyone. I have our top 8 right here. In first place, Daniel Weiser. And apologies if I mispronounce any of these names. Daniel Weiser took it down with Blue White Control, a Yorion version. In
Mhm.
second place, Mark Stanton with Blue Red Phoenix. In third place was Robert King with Blue Red Phoenix. In fourth place was Paul Green with Red Black Midrange. In fifth place, we had Adam Brace with Amalia Combo. In sixth place, we had Robert Wagner, also on Amalia Combo. In seventh place, we had Anna Wenger with Red Black Midrange. And in eighth place, there was James Mangus with Blue White Control, a 60 card version. So, congratulations to the top 8. Really interesting top 8, in my opinion. Just
Yeah, it's
four archetypes.
yeah, and it's just the usual suspects for the most part, with the exception of a Molly combo. Like maybe blue white control, you can make an argument that I mean that deck has kind of been down on the downswing for a little while now, just because blue white
Mhm.
kind of hard to find where that fits into Pioneer.
And
But
it also had a really rough mono green matchup, like the current version. Had a
yes.
pretty rough mono green matchup, and now that they don't even have to worry about mono green, it's like, oh well, now I can just dedicate my whole deck to beating the rest of the field, which
Mm-hmm.
I apparently it did really well because blue white was the most represented deck at the well, excuse me, no, it was not. I have to take that back really quickly.
Is that
I don't think
Rakdos
it
mid
was.
range?
Um, I'm double checking my no. Amalia combo was the
Mm.
highest, was the most played at 150 decks,
Oh my
and then we
god.
had 132 Is It Phoenix, 127 red black mid range, and 110 blue white control, and then it just kind of goes down from there. Um,
Blue Light Control
real quick,
also got a
also,
it also got a little bit of a juice from Get Lost too. Get Lost kind of like answered the
oh yeah.
Get Lost answered like problems that Fateful Absence was kind of poor at answering. Like there's a
I
lot.
mean, it's an instant. It's white. It's only 2 mana, and it targets creatures, enchantments, and planeswalkers. Like it's just kind of exact. It's like a swords. It's like an extra mana for a
And
swords to
the
plowshares.
map tokens the map tokens are strictly worse than the clue tokens too, in my opinion.
Yes,
So
strictly worse. Strictly worse. Um, the only time that it's kind of like is if you're playing against sacrifice. But even then, like you'd rather them have a map token than a mayhem devil.
yeah.
You know. But real quick, I want to shout out to at Azorius I on Twitter. This guy went the distance and went through every single deck list. That's 1,307 deck lists on Melee, sorted them, renamed them, and made a whole graph on Twitter of the win rates, the conversion rates. Just put in a whole bunch of work. I really want to shout them out for this. This is incredible research. This is incredible. Like
That's
they
amazing.
put in a ton of work. Once again, it's at Azorius I. On Twitter. Please go give them a follow. Please like the post. Like, really incredible work. And I'm going to be referencing their graph a lot throughout this. So, speaking of deck decisions, the Yorion version of Blue White that took it down, um, he's not playing any Regal Caracals in the sideboard.
Okay.
It's
I'm actually going to pull up the deck list too, just so I can take a look at it.
yeah.
So we can.
So he's not playing any Regal Caracals in the sideboard. It's just 2 Chrome Host Sea Sharks and 2 Dream Trawlers. Everything else is like he's got a Destroy Evil, an extra veto, Elspeth's Smite, Hallowed Moonlight, which he's got 1 of in the main board, 2 Disputes and 3 Rest in Peace. It really looks like this Yorion version really was like, I know I'm going to see a lot of Phoenix. I want to make sure that I'm going to defeat Arc-Light Phoenix this weekend because he's got a Hallowed Moonlight in the main deck. Um, there are no creatures in the main deck. He's even got a rewind. He's even got a rewind in the main deck.
Oh,
A
that's
one of
hot. Usually
that might be
that's
a one of, but that's pretty spicy.
Usually rewinds are saved for like the Lotus Field versions too, so that is interesting that he's playing that just straight
But
because
no,
this is not Lotus Field. This is just straight
this
up.
is not.
Yeah.
This is straight up blue white control. 80, 90 card blue white control.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
95. Excuse me.
yeah, and the Regal Caracal, charcoal, however you say it, I think that was mostly used because I dabbled in blue white for a little bit. You were basically only playing Regal if you were on the Kahira version because you couldn't have a companion and play Lyra Dawnbringer
Mhm.
in the main board. So it was like Regal and Lyra were kind of fighting for the same spots, it seemed. At least how I was reading into it. So
Mhm.
it is
But
interesting though that he didn't have any kind of
it's
effect like
cool.
that.
Yeah, it's cool because it looks like he was just like, okay, I've got, uh, I know I can grind out the red black decks really well. I don't need the Caracals on the sideboard to beat red black. I've got a Chromos Seed Shark, and I mean,
Four
not playing a
temp
lot of, huh?
four I was just gonna say 4 temporary lockdowns in the main. That is
Yeah,
a hardcore number.
that is definitely a choice. That I mean, I don't know how well that does against blue white or not blue. Excuse me. It's definitely not going to be good in the mirror, but holy cow, is that a that's a statement. I am not losing to any
Sacrifice.
any aggressive deck, any sacrifice, anything like that. Three
Well,
supreme verdict, four temporary lockdown.
I feel like temporary lockdown's definitely good against sacrifice. It's not the end all be all because like they do
No,
have Mayhem Devil and Fable, but really I think
yeah,
that's probably the
it
only
feels
things
like
after
it's
that. So
um, but yeah, blue eye control. They definitely were like, all right, well, two of our biggest threats are now out of the format. Now we can really kind of go hard and look at the two top dogs, Arclight Phoenix and Rakdos midrange. And then another top dog that's come in is this Amalia life game combo, the build your own Merit Lage, as it would, um, which
oh,
is
that deck's so
honestly,
silly.
it's really silly. And I kind of feel like I overestimated it. I underestimated it a little bit, but just I think that was because I've only played against it with sacrifice, against it when I was on sacrifice, and it felt like as long as I
Mhm.
had like removal for everything, I was doing fine. But man,
Yeah,
this I mean,
the fact that it can Coco into its combo is the thing that makes it so dangerous because like
mhm,
that's the main thing. That's what kind of makes
like
it like it feels silly. It feels incorrect to invoke the name Splinter Twin. Like some like people are really quick to say it's Splinter Twin. You know, as soon as
yeah,
something remotely kind of like
any
semi
sort of
broken comes out,
remote.
Splinter Twin. You know, it's not
If there's ever if it's ever a two card combo, it's always,
Splinter Twin.
oh, it's Splinter Twin. It's
Yeah,
Splinter Twin. But
it's not
I
Splinter
wouldn't
Twin.
necessarily call this Splinter Twin because
No.
it did lead to a lot of draws. I did see a lot of draws this weekend, um, but not as many thanks to the judges who decided to change the ruling. But I mean, it's a creature based combo deck that has a lot more stickability than other because we've seen Acerak, we've seen what that's the only one that's coming to my head right now. But with other, it's a creature
Was
based combo
Samwise
deck, and
was Samwise combo in Pioneer? Or is that a modern deck?
that's a modern deck.
Okay.
That's a modern deck, but it's I mean, I really think it's sticking around. Definitely think it's sticking around.
No,
Um,
it's definitely good. The yeah, as I was saying, the thing that makes it kind of go next level is the fact that if it can Coco in a turn and then be able to do its thing. Actually, I think
mhm.
maybe it can end a turn do its thing, like make a 20/20 at the end of your turn because
Yeah,
if you Coco
because
into
if you go, well, the only thing is if you Coco, you have to have a prosperous innkeeper on the field and then collected company,
mhm.
because the life gain, the ETB life gain will trigger the Amelia to explore, which will trigger the wild growth walker. So you can technically end of turn, but you have to get lucky to hit one of four Amalia and one of four Wild Growth Walkers. But I mean,
Yeah.
very powerful deck. I mean, look, I play Depths and Legacy, and end of turn 2020s are pretty dang good.
They can be
Pretty
pretty
dang
hard to
good.
beat.
Yeah.
I I would be really interested in seeing a deck tech or hear David or excuse me Daniel talk about his sideboard because control and mid range definitely reward proper sideboard construction and I feel like if you're going to make the commitment to play a mid range deck or a control deck, uh, you're going to have to really study your sideboard and figure out a plan if you're going into a large event like this, because those decks like Amalia combo can punk you out so quick if you're not prepared for them. And he apparently did something right, so
Yeah.
to come in first. So I'm very curious to
Um,
to have heard that.
yeah. Speaking of mid-range decks, we've got we can talk about Paul Green's list uh, from the top eight. 4 Inti Sentrasol of the Sun. It's a 1 and a red for a 2/2 legendary creature, human knight. Whenever you attack, you may discard a card. When you do, put a +1/+1 counter on target attacking creature and it gains trample. But the second line of text, whenever you discard one or more cards, exile the top card of your library, and you can play it until your next end step.
So
So,
combos really
so
well with Fable.
combos really well with Fable. It combos with itself. It combos with Smuggler's Copter. So just
Ooh.
imagine you attack, you discard a card, and then you exile the top, and now you've essentially discarded and drawn an extra card. It's
Mhm.
adding a +1 card draw to every time you have to discard something. Um, and also, I mean, it's a counter. It's not gets 1/1 until end of turn. It's a counter.
Right.
So that it's going to stick around, and it gets trample. It's a way to really push through for that last little bit of damage because um, sometimes mid range will have some issues kind of closing. Um, and so, unless it's like an overpowering wealth of like
Mm-hmm.
card advantage, but sometimes you just need that extra little,
Y-
sometimes you're like, oh, I'm the beatdown here, but I don't have beatdown numbers. And so NT can kind of like push you over that edge.
yeah.
I really think I like NT over the traditional mid range versions.
You know what is really jumping out at me about these deck lists on NPG top eight?
Mhm.
I have seen one Greasefang deck. Greasefang was the thing that everybody was like, "Oh my god, Smuggler's Copter is going to break this thing wide open," and it's like,
Well, we
no.
can. I got some words for Greasefang, and we can get to that later. There's one more quick thing I want to talk about before we get away from the top eight. Um, both of the Arclight Phoenix decks in the top eight, and then if you go down, there was one in the top 16 and one in the top 32. All 4 of these have 4 Picklock Prankster.
Mm,
I don't know what it came in for. I'm not the biggest expert on Arclight Phoenix, but um, it's wild because Free the Fae has been a hammer for that card. I mean, an absolute powerhouse. 2 mana, mill 4 cards, get back your treasure cruise.
mm-hmm.
2 mana, instant speed, mill 4 cards, um, get back a counter spell, get back a lightning axe. Mill 3 phoenixes, get back an instant.
Yeah,
You know,
if you were sat down and had to design a card explicitly for Phoenix to make it good, to make it even better, I
mhm.
think this is about as close to perfect as you can get. Like besides making it
Like
like one, you know,
besides making it 1 mana and red and draw 2, discard 2,
one mana
with
red blue
flashback for
hybrid.
1 in a red. um, I think other than that, like, yeah, Picklock Prankster has been like the card that's given Phoenix like the uptick
Mm-hmm.
to really just push forward. I mean, Phoenix has always been a really good deck, but it's um, seeing the 4 pranksters. It's like, oh, now Phoenix is kind of like, okay, now there's a lot more going on now. There's a
Yeah,
lot more behind this.
no, that card has really impressed me. It's very good.
hmm So, so that's it for the top eight. That was it for. I just picked out some stuff that was interesting in the top eight deck choices. Once again, congratulations to everyone. Um, anything you saw in the top eight that you wanted to mention before we move on?
Let me look at the top 8 really quick. I saw mono. I think I was accidentally scrolling down a little bit far, but I saw mono black aggro reared its
Oh yeah, there was
ugly
a
head
mono
again.
black aggro deck list made it into the top 16 with just exactly what you'd expect: four ofs of a lot of things
Hmm.
and swamps.
But yeah, no, I mean the top 8. I mean it looks decent. Like it was the also the fact that like the top 8 looks good, but like the fact that if you just scroll down a little bit and you just see all these Amalia combo decks that got knocked
Oh
out
my
by other
god,
stuff,
yeah.
like it's never ending. Like there's a
Hmm.
lot of blue eyed, a lot of Amalia, so it's not the end all be all deck that I feel like you have to absolutely be on in order to play Pioneer. Like
Hmm.
the format, the top 8 is kind of a testament to it. It's still pretty wide open. Like, I mean, if you
Hmm.
want to play Rakdos midrange, you can have success with Rakdos midrange. You will play Phoenix, you can certainly have success with Phoenix. You want to be a masochist and play blue white control, you can
Yeah,
do
good
that.
luck. Best of
I
luck to
mean,
you for
I'm playing blue white control too. Like I'm building it, but I'm playing the bad Lotus Field version where you play
yeah.
5 lands on turn 3. It's
Um,
it's not the best, but it's fun. I think it's fun.
um, I gotta say, yeah, we can talk about what we like going forward, but that's it for top 8 discussion. Shout out to the one of Mono Black player and the one of Phoenix and the one of Lotus Field player who made it into the top 16. Congrats to you two guys for not being, or congrats to you two players for not being Phoenix mid range or blue white control or combo or Amalia combo. But
Hmm.
so going into the metagame breakdown, um, we have I have some best overalls and some worst overalls. So our best overalls are blue jeans. No, our best overall deck
It's
performance.
it's the Wrangler. If you have a big old man booty like I do, Wrangler.
Oh yeah,
That's where it's at for
Wranglers
big
are.
boys.
Oh yeah, those are good overalls right there. So our best overall as far as win rate is blue white control. Had a post day 2 going into top 8, 55.15% win rate,
Hmm.
um, which is notably less than 60, um, which is, I would say 55 is a pretty good win rate for the most winning deck at the tournament. Because it's not like overpoweringly good, but it's still definitely a very good win rate in my opinion.
No, and that's a to me that's a that's a pretty balanced win rate to be there. Like that's not like a astronomically large number to where it seems like it's broken or anything. Like blue eye control, I don't think anything's going to make that deck be broken or whatever. It'd have to be banned out
Hmm.
of it. Like I think that's going to be a pretty tall order to do. But
Yeah,
yeah, 55 is
and
perfectly fine.
and I don't think blue white control has ever needed a ban in a long time. At least not since Jace the Mind Sculptor and
Call
Stoneforge
blade,
missed.
yeah.
Yeah, but it's good to see control players kind of bringing out, starting to shine again.
Hmm.
I know a lot of people like to hate on control players, but it's good to see control players back. And interestingly, blue white control also had the highest conversion rate into day 2, with 38.18% of all blue white control players making it into day 2.
Oh wow, that is really
Mm-hmm.
impressive. Yeah, so if you're
Yeah.
my my hot take on that is going to be if you are planning on, I mean, since this is the result of the RC, if you're planning on sleeving up any blue white if you're planning on playing any blue white control anytime soon, definitely pack some mirror breakers in your sideboard,
Because a
because
lot of yeah.
one of the most miserable feelings I've been on this side of the battle is if you get blue white control ready and you go out into a tournament expecting to play against aggro and mid range all day long, and then you just see like 6 other blue white control lists in the field. That feels miserable. Like if you don't have
Mhm.
any silver bullets for the mirror at all,
Yeah.
definitely need to pack those.
I feel like we can. This might be a little speculation, but I feel like Blue White Control prayed, and this is no slight to the people who did well with it. Like, obviously, you put time, like, especially up at the higher tables, like, this is a 1,300 person event.
Mm-hmm.
If you did well, you're a good player. But I feel like a lot of the win rate and the conversion rate kind of bumped were Blue White Control players kind of preying on the people who were planning on playing mono green, or the people who were planning
Mm-hmm.
on playing combo, the discovery combo, and all of a sudden their deck's banned. Okay, well, what am I going to do? I put all this time and testing into these two decks. What am I going to do now? And so now they just pick up a deck that they kind of knew before, which is a great spot for a control player who knows the metagame.
Mm-hmm.
That's a great spot for a mid-range player who knows the metagame to win against. Like, that is the spot you want to be, is a person who doesn't know what they're doing. And okay,
Yeah.
that might be a little over, but like,
No, I'm.
you put two average Magic players. The player who knows what they're doing and knows the deck more will
Mhm.
win. Most of the time.
Yeah, no, it's I don't think that's unfair to say. Like blue white control in a way kind of serves the same, kind of acts as the same filter as is like something like burn or mono red aggro does, where like if you can't beat this, you're probably not going to beat a lot of other stuff. Like it's kind of like the barrier into it. Like if you
A
don't, if
gatekeeper,
you
essentially.
yeah, almost in a way. Yeah, in blue eye control, it can perform on different axes. Like it can turn into almost like an aggro deck with the Wandering Emperor and Seed Shark, and then it can obviously control and win in the late game with Teferi. So it has different ways to attack it, which is kind of what makes it attractive for seasoned players, because you can,
Mhm.
if you know the stages of the game that you need to get to win, it's a very rewarding deck.
Yeah, it rewards a lot of time into not just knowing your deck, but knowing what everyone else is doing as well. So um, it's really no surprise to me that Blue White Control did well this weekend. Um, and now we have our worst overall. Our worst overall win rate was Abzan Greasefang,
Mm.
39.6 win rate. Holy cow. That deck just
Yep.
plummeted. Oh my gosh. Remember when that was like one of like the powerhouses? Like people
Yep.
were like, "Oh, you got to make sure you got something for Greasefang." That deck just tanked. Holy
Well,
cow.
so this is kind of my tinfoil hat take on that. Is
Mhm.
I feel like after Copter got banned, or unbanned, excuse me, after Copter got unbanned, that was the first thing that all of Magic Twitter gravitated towards. Let's talk about like, uh, this deck's going to be so great now. This goes right into Greasefang. Greasefang's going to be so great. It goes great and great. It's just Greasefang, just constant.
Mhm.
That's all I heard about was Greasefang and Copter. So I
Greasefang,
think,
Greasefang.
I think that maybe as a result of that, people boarded more heavily for Greasefang, and I think that maybe Greasefang became a victim of that indirectly,
Mhm.
because, or directly because of that, I should say, because
Mhm.
people were expecting to see Greasefang so much because of Copter getting unbanned that it just went downhill, which may not have been the case normally. Had this ban not happened already and Greasefang wasn't at the top of everybody's like awareness, I think we might have seen a higher win rate. That's just me though. That's just
That's that's definitely an interesting theory. Um,
because
I like that.
Greasefang by no stretch of the imagination is a bad deck in my opinion.
Oh
I
no,
I
absolutely
think
not.
yeah, I think it can be a very good deck, but
Mhm.
I
It's
feel,
just weird because
yeah.
like it lost one of its worst matchups. It lost Mono Green, which was traditionally one of Greasefang's worst matchups.
Hmm.
Because like if they go turn three Karn and you go turn three Greasefang, you're not crewing that vehicle you brought onto the battlefield.
Exactly.
You
Yeah.
know, or they can just Karn and go get a Tormod's Crypt and just kind of end the game on the spot right there. So it's a little wild to see Greasefang so low, but also at the same time, you just look at what's so high. Um, you've got a combo deck that on your turn three you're dealing 14 damage. On their turn three, they're making a 20/20 and
Hmm.
destroying all other creatures. You've got a control deck, which is also Greasefang, one of Greasefang's worst matchups. Um, you've also and you just keep looking at the high, and you saw how many Phoenix decks there were. It's not hard at all for Phoenix to turn on 3 damage or even just lightning X a Greasefang when you like put it onto the battlefield. um or they can just counter the Greasefang with like
Hmm.
tempo you out with stuff like that. So on one hand, yeah, you would think Greasefang would be in a good position, but at the same time, if you look at everything that's at the top tables and winning, Greasefang,
The
it's just a recipe for disaster for that rat.
basically like anything that can interact with any deck that has the means to interact with Greasefang before they go to combat is probably going to be advantaged. So that's why, like you see, Rakdos mid range crushing it, white blue control crushing it.
Mm-hmm.
Anything that has basically any form of removal, but so they can't do their shenanigans before they go to combat. Because then after that, other than that, unless they have like a, unless they're able to get like their Essica's chariot package down, they're just dirtling and throwing shit into their graveyard like
Yeah,
constantly.
it just turns into a worse mid range deck.
Yeah.
Pre middle of the podcast, Gideon update. Say
Oh
hello,
hey,
Gideon.
hello Gideon. For the
Hello.
audio listeners, we're looking at an orange
A
cat.
very orange, an orange fat cat. All right, goodbye. All right. However, Greasefang does have one redeeming quality. It was not the worst converter. The worst converter was Azorius Lotus Field with a 9% conversion.
Yeah.
9% of the 33 decks that made it to the RC converted. So maybe, Matt, you should be looking at Yorion. Maybe you should be looking at our snake friend instead of those Lotus
Oh yeah, no,
Fields.
I'm not going to like go to bat and say like and say like I probably, if I was going to play in the RC, I probably wouldn't play wouldn't play
Mm,
Lotus Field Control. I just think it's a fun deck to have around. It is fun to be able to do that thing. I definitely think you'd want to play more of a well-tuned version of Blue White if you're going into a field like this. If you're going to just like a regular like RCQ or whatever, have a blast, do whatever.
oh yeah,
But
play whatever you
but
want, dog.
yeah, if you're going to something like as high stakes as this where the meta is already really established, I don't think you want to lean too heavy on that, because the thing where that makes that deck fall apart is if you're not able to have turn 3 Lotus Field, cuz that's what
Yeah.
the deck is playing to. um I will say it is interesting though, because it seems like Strict Proctor would have been a banger for Amalia combo, because that just
Hmm.
basically turns off the deck if I'm not mistaken, because it's every time a permanent comes into play, counter that ability
Let's look up
unless they
strict
pay
proctor.
2.
Strict proctor. Whenever a permanent entering the battlefield causes a triggered ability to trigger, counter that ability unless its controller pays 2. So it could counter the ETB gain a life trigger to start it off, but it's not stopping the whole combo because you've
Okay.
got food tokens to start up the life gain. You've
Oh,
got
and
a
then
lot of other
then
things.
it just goes
Yeah.
from there. Okay.
So,
Yeah, that makes
um,
sense.
yeah, 9%, 9%. Have fun with that deck, but don't expect to win any big tournaments anytime
Yeah,
soon.
no, I would not. I would
Um,
not play on that. It's a hell of a lot of fun to grind on arena, which is mostly what I've been
mhm.
playing it with. And it's given me an excuse to foil out blue white control, which is the next foil out that I'm working on. I got my full to fairies over
Oh
Eternal
gosh.
Weekend.
Oh gosh.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm so.
so
I don't. I'm sorry. This is like a little tangent. I don't know what it is. I've noticed this trend every time I see a blue white control like player. The deck's always fulled out. It's never not been fulled out every time I've seen like a person playing at like a upper level with blue eye control. So I was like, I kind of
mhm.
got like um FOMO on it. So I just started getting fulled out pieces for it. And it's so crazy because so much of it, if you're wanting to full out a deck now, so much of the cost of it is virtually the same, maybe $1 or two more. And
Yeah.
it's definitely not how it used to be.
Um, one of my personal favorite standouts from this weekend is one of my personal favorite standouts from this weekend is the enigmatic the Omnath decks. I'll just blanket term that to the Omnath decks.
Mm-hmm.
So fires of invention, the enigmatic incarnation decks. Um, both the Karuga and the Yorion versions both had a win rate of 54%. Both of them had a conversion rate of around 35%. The Omnath to Light deck had a 50% win rate, but it also had a conversion rate of 36%. So, what really is so looking at these metrics, you see like Amalia combo more than 50%, Azorius control more than 50%. You see Boros heroic at more than 50%, but that's kind of an outlier. But then you
Mm-hmm.
see fires, fires, Omnath both above 50%, um, which is just kind of like wild to me. Um, it's real, like that is some. Those are some really good win rates for
So
this deck.
these are just like the domain leyline nonsense decks, right? That play
This
like
is
every
the
triome.
Yeah, this is like the I'm playing Triomes, I'm playing Leyline Binding into Enigmatic Incarnation to sacrifice the binding to get to get an 8 drop,
Yeah.
or to sack my fires to get a 5 drop, to sack like a 3 drop, touch the Spirit Realm to go get a 4 to go get my
Mm-hmm.
Omnath to just accrue value that way. Kind of wild to see this deck so high up, but it's really kind of it's I hesitate to call it a sleeper because it does have high win rates across the board. Um, if we look at the MTG decks metagame win rate graphic, Incarnation has a plus 70% win rate against any Rakdos deck.
Yeah.
If you're playing red black and you're playing against, or even Gruul vehicles, if you're playing a red mid range deck against Incarnation, you're really not favored to win that match. Um,
Yeah. Like
but
this kind of falls into. I mean, like that kind of lines up exactly with what I was going to say before I'd even looked at the graphic. Like that is a deck that I feel like will completely destroy smaller mid-range decks like Rakdos mid-range, stuff that's trying to do the similar things to it but are just creating smaller threats. Like
mm,
anytime you put two mid-range decks together to fight against one another, the bigger mid-range deck is going to win. Like
yeah,
that's just how it's
mm,
going to play out unless something wildly crazy plays out like Mana Screw or whatever. But yeah, those if you're expecting to see a lot of Rakdos midrange and things like that, I think that's a very powerful deck to be on. But we do see it kind of getting eaten alive by stuff like Azorius control that can interact with its stuff and counter stuff. Like I'm going to play this huge 8-drop, okay, counter spell, you know,
Get lost.
or get
Yeah.
lost. Yeah,
Um, and then it's also got really poor matchups against uh, Lotus Field combo, which it kind of downticks, but I feel like this is Lotus Field is hard to interact unless you've got like counter spells or you're just putting more pressure on. I'd
yeah.
like to point out that it does have a 50-50 matchup spread. Um, in 51 matches, it won 51% of the time against Amalia combo. Um,
That's surprising.
so that's neat. Um, so that's neat. But
And
yeah, it's
where is mono
I
white?
would say unless you expect to see I mean, like, obviously a lot of people are probably going to be picking up Azorius Control just because, it won the RC and a lot of people are playing it and it's really good. It's putting in the numbers right now. I personally, if you've got the cards, I'd probably buy into some form of an Omnath deck. I really like where
Mm-hmm.
Omnath is going right now. And it's all and the thing about a deck like Omnath, or even Blue White Control, is that it's always getting cards. It's
Yeah.
always getting cards.
You will never
Um,
have a shortage of fun toys to play with if you're playing something like Omnath or Blue Eye Control, because there'll always be something cool printed in the next set
mm,
to include in it or try out and see if it works. Um, Amalia combo is really the first one that's just sprung up out of nowhere. Um,
mm,
so it's probably going to see a few revisions before it just settles in and becomes part of the
mm,
metagame as we know it. Because I don't think that deck's going to go anywhere, barring any kind of like crazy nerfs or anything. And I think I'm okay with this one being part of the meta versus Geological Appraiser. I think that deck
yeah,
definitely
it feels
needed to
like
go.
there's a lot more room for counterplay
Yeah,
against the Amalia decks than the Discover decks. I guess it's the Quintoris deck now, but there's a lot more counterplay. Amalia is only 2 mana, so it can easily be fatal pushed. And if you just kill Amalia before anything happens, they've just got some dudes. They've just got draft chaff
yeah,
as creatures. Um, I mean, they are gaining life, but if you don't care about them gaining all that life, you
yeah.
know,
That's why
you know,
like Azorius probably did really well is because Azorius does not care if your life is 1 or 1,000. Like it'll win
mhm,
eventually by just milling you
mhm,
out with the fairy. It's going to get there. So that's probably why you saw blue white perform as well as it did because yeah, the life gain virtually does not matter when you're playing against that.
mhm.
But
So yeah, it's an interesting little matchup spread. This was a pretty enlightening RC as far as a lot of stuff goes.
yeah,
I think personally for me, once again, I think I would probably build Incarnation. Um, I'm just not smart enough to play Blue White Control. Also, that deck just doesn't interest me.
oh, you don't need to
But
be smart to play blue white. You just play Supreme Vert, play Teferi, and win. There you go.
um, I guess we can round out tonight with what are your thoughts on Copter? What are your thoughts on Copter getting unbanned? Do you think it was good for the format? What do you think?
I mean, I kind of hold that in the same regard, maybe even a little less so than when they unbanned Stoneforge or Jace in Modern. Like, I mean, it sounds so unbelievable at the start. You're like, oh my god, they unbanned Copter, but like, I'm looking through the deck list and it's nothing like it was at the start of Pioneer, just because we've had so much more printed since then. But like
Mm-hmm.
I think it's fine. Like we have a lot more ways to deal with Copter now. Sometimes decks just have better cards than Copter to play, as weird as that is to say. Like
Mm-hmm.
I'm just kind of scrolling through it and I haven't come across like any Copters. like
I
And
mean, you see Copter in the NT versions of Rakdos mid range. You
yeah,
see Copter in rule vehicles, but that's it. Um,
yeah, no,
but
it's
those are
fine.
the two decks that we kind of called 2 weeks ago as these are the decks that are going to want Copter.
I think it's
He's
kind of like I think it's kind of like when it was initially banned, it was kind of like the Dave Chappelle sketch of modern problems require modern solutions. We didn't have
mhm.
modern solutions at that point, so
Yeah, yeah.
I don't I think it's fine. Like I didn't roll my eyes or anything when I saw them unban that. I was honestly
Mhm.
expecting to look at this top 8 and be mad at it because I thought the Amalia combo was just going to completely dominate it. But no, I'm pleasantly surprised. It's
Mhm.
dare I say it, pretty healthy. Uh, you have a ton of Amalia decks when you go down the line, but those were kept pretty
I
well
think
in check.
it's like the hotness. It's like the hotness, you know.
Yeah.
And I'll say another thing about Amalia decks doing well. A lot of the Phoenix players, a lot of the people who have been testing Phoenix, I saw on Twitter that they were like, we thought we were just going to be okay with just we'll just shock it. Oh, we'll just deal 2 damage to it. It'll be fine. Um, a lot of them are realizing just how resilient this deck is to removal.
Mm-hmm.
That's like or the smart players are when playing around the Phoenix removal. Like sometimes you have to have 2 kill spells. You can't just like, oh, I'll leave up 1 land. I think a lot of Phoenix players underestimated it this weekend, but I think it's definitely a deck
Well,
to keep an eye on, and
yeah,
I don't think it's that oppressive either.
and I mean, like, I mean, let's play through it. Like, if you even if you kill the combo, even if you shock Amalia, if that's your
Mhm.
only plan to beat that deck, it's just going to run you over with a bunch of little duders. And you don't want to shock a
Yeah,
1/1, like a,
yeah.
but
You want to
that's,
save that for the combo, but
yeah,
then all of a sudden they're attacking you. They're
yeah.
attacking you.
It's
They're
like,
attacking you, and
it's,
it's like you'll like, okay, I killed, and this happened to me at the BCS against it, where if it wasn't for the fact that my hand was like I had 3 fatal pushes and 2 more kill spells. If it wasn't for the fact that that was my hand for the running turns, I would have lost that game so quickly because he just went duder. All right, collected company. All right, court of calling into collected company
mm-hmm.
into court of calling into another just 1-1, and it's like, oh my gosh,
Yep.
you have so many freaking ways to get this girl onto the battlefield with her shambling mound friend. Like,
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
um,
I think that's a big misconception people have. Even back in the days when Coco, like Collected Company Toolbox, was a deck in Modern, was you could save all your removal spells for, or you could board in a bunch of removal spells to kill the okay, I win now combo. But eventually, as you said, they're going to get to the point where like, okay, swing six, swing six, swing six, and then you, unless you have some kind of proactive way to win the game, you're just going to die to their little dorks. So
mhm.
I think that is a deck building mistake or a matchup misconception that I think some people have with going against decks like Amalia is you got to have a plan to win the game. You can't just like postpone them forever because eventually they're just going to run you over.
But at the same time, way, way better than playing against the Discover combo.
Yes.
Way better.
No, way prefer this over turn four.
This
Okay, I
is
win.
yeah, this is the type of combo that the creature combo that I'm okay with. But I think that just about wraps it up for tonight. Thanks for letting me drone on about the RC this weekend. I hope it was enlightening for a lot of people.
No,
Any closing
absolutely.
thoughts? Um,
Uh,
Closing
well,
thoughts before we play our end of pod game.
let me think. No, not really. I mean, Pioneer's in a good place. As weird as that is to say, I am hopeful for the future of that format, which is refreshing to say about it. Since we've
Yeah.
slogged through so much garbage with that format for the past
Oh
few
my god.
months
Yeah.
or whatever, but now we're kind of over the hump for the time being. For the time being,
For the
until
time being.
something gets broken
Again.
again.
But all right. Well, I guess my closing thoughts are: put your stocks in Omnath if you don't want to play Blue White Control.
Stonks.
In Pioneer. Second closing thought: please pick up Standard. It's a great format. I promise. It's a fun format.
I
All right,
will
Matt.
when they ban Sheoldred. I'm so tired of that card. I don't think they're gonna
Oh,
ban it, which is the
they're
saddest.
not. But Matt, have you seen how expensive that card is?
I know it's like for three of them when I was looking at it, three of them is almost $300. That's almost $100 a card. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like it's
So
uh,
something's gonna have to happen. But or you just play a deck that doesn't have Shieldred, which
which
there
is
are quite
so
a few.
hard to do though.
There are quite a few. I mean, I've got one. There are quite. Anyways, name that blue card.
Blue card. Okay. Blue card. Is it a creature?
No.
Is it an instant?
Yes.
Okay. Is it a staple in a format?
Y-
Okay, is it okay, I'm sorry, that's a
yes.
bad question. Is it played widely in a particular format?
I will give you an answer if you can name the format.
Pioneer,
If you can, no, it's
Legacy.
not legal in Pioneer. It is legal in Legacy, and yes, Legacy.
Okay. Played widely in Legacy. Is does it have an alternate casting cost?
It does.
Does it cost 2?
No.
Okay. I was thinking because you had Submerge last week. I was wondering if that might be days or something, but maybe not. Does it call? Can you pay life for it?
no.
Okay, so it's not Force of Will. Uh, not Force of Will. It's not Days. It has an alternate casting cost. It's blue. And it's played in Legacy. Is its converted mana cost 5? No, it's not. Is its converted mana cost 3?
No.
Does it counter a spell? Kinda, not really.
The text on the card says no.
Okay.
It does
Interesting.
not counter a spell.
Does not counter a spell. Does it copy a spell?
No, it does not copy a spell.
It doesn't copy and it doesn't counter. Does it exile a spell?
Yes.
Is its converted mana cost 4?
Yes.
Is it Mind Break Trap?
It is Mind Break Trap. Congratulations, Matt. You
Ha
finally
Gotcha.
guessed one right.
Those
Let's
seven
go.
that $70 Mind Break Trap.
Yeah, and you want to know what? I only have three on my desk right now because I got one of them in a CEDH deck. But I picked these bad boys. I picked up a play set for $20 when I was
Oh
playing
yeah.
Cloud Burst.
No, I
Yeah,
remember having a playset of those back in the day too, and they were I don't even think they were $20 at that point. Well, they may have been like 10 or 15. They were nowhere near
this
70.
I would say I've got two on my desk. I've got two heavily played and one I would almost consider it damaged, but it's or heavily played. But still, that's I mean, heavily played on a $70 card. It's still like what, $40 a piece?
Yeah.
Pretty
No, that
nice.
they need to reprint that in like the next Modern Horizon something. I think that's a perfectly
They need
reasonable
to they
reprint.
need to reprint Shieldred,
No.
reprint it to the
No.
ground. I need
No.
or just make it so bad, like Jace the Mind Sculptor.
Oh no.
print, print print a card into standard that's like one uh red green that's one like green blue hybrid exile target creature with converted mana cost 4.
I mean, we have Well, I don't know. It's the fact you have to have that in every single format, though. Problem.
God.
I don't know if you were on the cast last week, but I don't think you were. But I can add another notch in my belt. I got turn 2 shielded in Legacy.
Oh,
I
fun.
was
Oh,
playing its
fun.
Doomsday, and he duressed away my Force of Will, and then turn 2 he went Darkrit shielded.
Hell yes.
It's
Okay. I know you've been playing Arena. Have you been playing the new like everything format?
yes, I have been getting my ass kicked in that format left and right.
Yeah.
I have
You want to know what I did in that format?
what?
Turn 1 to shielded. I actually turn 1 thought seized, then shielded.
Yeah, no, that'll do it.
I went swamp, rit, thought seized, shielded.
I
Turn
went
1.
ahead and burned a bunch of wild cards. I'd got 4 counter spells and 4 lightning bolts, and I got my 4 Ragamans because I was planning on playing the blue red basically
Yep.
Murktide list. I just don't have brainstorms or the fetch land. I'm kind of playing at like a pauper level because I don't have any of the fetch lands yet.
Well,
But
Delver of Secrets is a common on Arena.
yeah, I need to try it with Delver. Right now I have like a Rakdos ring where it's just like
Oh
just
god! Oh, like that
bangers.
list I sent you. Oh yes,
Yeah.
Rakdos Ring hashtag bangers, baby.
Yep.
Oh
Yep.
yeah,
No.
it's a great
Format's
list.
fun.
And
Format's fun. It is it does require a significant wild card investment if you want to be on a level playing
yeah,
field. So be prepared for that if you want to get into it. But otherwise, it's pretty fun.
well, good. All right. Well, it's been fun, Matt. Thank you to everybody who's listening. Please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, share the podcast on a bunch of different platforms. Share it with your friends. Share it with your enemies. If you hate it, share it with your enemies. Have a
Maybe
blast.
they'll become friends for us.
Tune into our streams. We try and stream every day. Same place as we do it here, Southern Magic on twitch.com/TV.
And
Video,
everyone have a happy holidays too, no matter what you celebrate or how you choose to celebrate it or with
we are
whoever.
non-denominational happy holidaysing everybody. And I think that's it.
All right. See y'all next time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.